Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc.
Antigua and Barbuda's Prime Minister accuses some of his regional neighbors of trying to prevent his country getting a UWI campus. Our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Monday, April 29. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Ricardo Roberts. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Prime Minister Gaston Browne has identified what he described as petty jealousy by some Caribbean territories in efforts to prevent Antigua and Barbuda from becoming the fourth campus of the University of the West Indies. Now, UWI currently has campuses in Jamaica, Barbados, and Trinidad and Tobago. Browne said some resistance is coming from some of those but he did not identify them. But the island's Attorney General Stedroy Benjamin said Barbados and Trinidad and Tobago have requested additional time from the UWI to consider the move. Speaking on a local radio program, Prime Minister Browne insisted that come September 2019, Antigua will be opening the doors of a university, even if it is not the UWI.
The committee of the university approved our university plan. Unfortunately, you have some politics that is taking root now with some of the campus countries, if I may call them that, expressing concerns. They have all kind of fears. They have all kind of innuendos and subterfuge that they're now bringing to the fore. All I want to say to them, they can jump high, jump low. We're opening up the door of our university come September of this year.
Now, earlier this month, the UWI Vice-Chancellor, Sir Hilary Beckles, held talks with the Antigua and Barbuda government regarding the opening of the fourth landed campus of the regional tertiary institution. Prime Minister Browne says his administration is prepared to use a brand other than the UWI to establish a university if need be.
We have decided to go with UWI because, you know, we are integrationists at heart, and we will expect the full cooperation, just as our Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica, they have campuses to educate their people. And this is an initiative from which Antigua and Barbuda shall not relent. They can have the concerns, that's fine, but at the end of the day, we have a campus that will be adequately funded by a tax. There's no other UWI campus that has that dedicated source of income. Those who have their little petty jealousies, they better put them aside.
Trinidad and Tobago's main opposition, United National Congress, is renewing efforts to reverse the 2015 general election results. It's moving to get the courts to set aside the judgment of the Court of Appeal on the matter. Now, opposition leader Kamala Persad-Bissessar told the UNC's 30th anniversary celebrations on Sunday that a court hearing is scheduled for June 5th. We get the details in this TTT News report.
Opposition leader Kamala Persad-Bissessar said the party filed the application because of biasness and unfairness.
On the 2015 election petitions, they have filed an application to set aside the judgment of the Court of Appeal in election petitions on the ground of bias and unfairness. The application urges the court to reopen proceedings and be the final arbiter of the electoral petitions. These are most important for our democracy.
After the UNC lost the 2015 election, it wanted fresh elections in 5 marginal constituencies: Tunapuna, St. Joseph, San Fernando West, Moruga Tableland and Turco Sangre Grande. The party claimed the Election and Boundaries Commission overreached its authority by extending the voting time for the election by 1 hour. The Court of Appeal upheld the High Court ruling which dismissed the UNC's petition.
St. Lucia's Prime Minister Alan Chasney Monday announced that he has accepted the resignation of Public Service Minister Dr. Eubaldas Raymond. Now, Raymond had been sent on leave earlier this month after the government said an investigation was launched into information being circulated about him in the public domain. The probe surrounded a salacious conversation that had gone viral on social media. A telephone recording between a male believed to be Raymond and a woman with a foreign accent had been released. In a brief statement on Monday, Prime Minister Chasney said Raymond's resignation was in the best interest of all parties and the country. He added that Raymond has served the country well and in several capacities, including leader of government business in the Senate and previously as minister in the Ministry of Finance. The United States Embassy in Guyana has criticized the parliament there for paying tribute to a late convicted terrorist and former member of parliament Abdul Qadir. Qadir died in June last year in a U.S. prison after being convicted of terrorism-related charges. And the embassy said in a statement that legislators had chosen to honor a man who conspired to kill innocent people from across the U.S. and around the world. We get more in this Newsroom Guyana report.
The resolution was passed in the National Assembly on Friday, with the 33 government parliamentarians voting for it. The opposition PPP was absent from the sitting and later condemned the government for passing the motion.
Mr. Speaker, I close by saying the people of Linden and Guyana have lost a great man, a stalwart, a bold and courageous man. So I ask this Parliament, this National Assembly, that we direct an expression of its sympathy be conveyed to his sorrowing widow, children, grandchildren, and relatives.
Not realizing the motion was passed in the House, Sarah Ann Lynch, the United States ambassador, Friday evening itself lauded the government and law enforcement authorities for cooperation in the area of security. Addressing a welcome reception held at her Cummings Lodge East Coast Demerara residence, the diplomat spoke of collaboration which saw the extradition of alleged murderer Troy Thomas to the U.S. last week. In the presence of leader of the opposition Bart Jagdeo, Prime Minister Moses Nakamoto and other dignitaries, she noted that partnerships will continue on the security front. However, with the news of the passage of the motion, the U.S. Embassy is now questioning this collaboration. In a statement on Monday, the embassy said the resolution in the National Assembly is in direct contradiction to the efforts of security cooperation between the two countries. The embassy added that parliamentarians have now left a stain on their legacy as representatives of the Guyanese people and on their commitment to the rule of law. Qadir was sentenced to life in prison in the United States after being found guilty of plotting a 2007 terrorist attack at the John F. Kennedy International Airport in New York. He died in prison last June. Members of the National Assembly, therefore, chose to honor a man who conspired to kill innocent people from across the United States and around the world. This resolution is an insensitive and thoughtless act which demonstrates the National Assembly's disregard for the gravity of Qadir's actions, the embassy stated. In handing down Qadir's sentence, Judge Doro Irizarry said the offenses for which Mr. Qadir was convicted are about as serious as they come, short of murder. She said that he had taken part in a plan that will clearly cause devastation unimaginable. Qadir had maintained his innocence on the charges. His family members were in the parliamentary chambers for the passage of the motion and were duly recognized.
Cayman Islands Premier Aldin McLaughlin has warned UK politicians against intervening in the territories' domestic matters. Now, he was in London last week to further constitution reform talks with the UK government, and he described those talks as cordial and useful. But in a statement about his trip, Premier McLaughlin also said he tackled the issue of UK intervention. He said that he gave note of warning of the consequences of a UK Parliament 4,500 miles from the Cayman Islands interfering in local matters, particularly in circumstances where they have no real understanding of local people and local affairs. The Premier also warned that should unwarranted intervention continue, it would only drive a wedge between the British overseas territories and the UK, which would not serve in anyone's interest. And coming up in Caribbean Newsline, Dominica's Prime Minister calls on the European Union to get his country off its blacklist. The details after this. Welcome back. The Dominica government on Monday called on the European Union to remove the island from a list of non-cooperative tax jurisdictions, saying that it had done all that had been required to meet the requested obligations. Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit made the call before Parliament approved amendments to earlier pieces of legislation that had been mandated by the EU. Last month, European finance ministers named Dominica among 8 countries moved from a grey list to the blacklist for not following up on commitments taken. Skerrit says he wants Dominica's name cleared.
And I look forward to that, because that is the only just thing they should do. As a matter of fact, they should even go publicly and apologize to Dominica for having placed us on this negative list, But we don't want an apology. We don't want an apology. All we want, take out our name from this blacklist, because we have done everything and we have gone beyond what is required by the international community, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
And Prime Minister Skerrit was adamant that the issue be addressed in a bipartisan way.
There are some things in our country that we have to recognize that it transcends party politics. It transcends party politics. Because when our country gets into this negative list, it is not Roosevelt Skerrit or the Dominica Labour Party. It is Dominica. And these things have the potential of impacting the way we conduct business within our country and between countries and with countries. It will affect how we deal with issues of banking. It will affect how we deal with issues of money transfers. It will affect our ability to pay those whom we owe, both in the public service and private sector people. It will affect our credit card, access to credit cards and debit cards. So people have to understand these things and recognize that this is not about UWP or Dominica Labour Party. This is about our country.
The Pan American Health Organization has implemented a new program aimed at reducing cases of malaria in the Americas. We get the details in this week's Newsline Health.
A new program from the Pan American Health Organization, Municipalities for Malaria, is looking to address the disease in the Americas, particularly in the Caribbean, the highest area of concentration. The initiative was launched on World Malaria Day on April 25th, and it will see PAHO working with partner organizations, government agencies, and affected municipalities. PAHO says in 2017, 25 towns and cities accounted for about 50% of all reported cases of malaria in the Americas. At a country level, between 25 and 70% of all cases of malaria are usually concentrated within no more than 3 municipalities. Measures to address the health problem include strengthening surveillance and capacities for monitoring at local level, improving access to early diagnosis and treatment, and empowering communities and raising awareness of the importance of healthy practices. The World Health Organization's 2018 World Malaria Report highlights that progress in fighting malaria stalled globally in the previous 2 years. Malaria is still endemic in 19 countries and territories in the Americas. PAHO said cases increased by 26% in the last year, with around 108 million people estimated to be at risk. While countries in the region have committed to eliminating malaria, PAHO says local support and resources are still inadequate, and in many areas where transmission of the disease remains pervasive. Mary Claire Williams, Newsline Health.
And Buju Banton performed to a packed Kensington Oval on the weekend on the Barbados leg of his Long Walk to Freedom tour. Now, Buju was the headline act on the first night of the Barbados Reggae Festival. He opened the set with his rendition of the Lord's Prayer, and for a total of 90 minutes, he thrilled the crowd with a mix of conscious reggae and dancehall hits. Also performing on Saturday night were Barbadian artists Buggy Nakente, as well as Wayne Wonder and Sprague Benz. Sprague said he was happy to witness Buju's comeback and is looking forward to his new music.
I got to Jamaica just because I wanted to see him tonight, and you know, I'm looking forward to the new music that he's going to be putting out, because I know that he had time to relax and scan the whole field and know exactly where he wants to be. And he's a conscious person, so give him time and him space. Buju is here.
And we have more on the Barbados Reggae Festival in Friday's Newsline Entertainment. And ahead of Newsline Sports, the Cricket West Indies president defends his West Indian first coaching policy. Stay with us. Sport is next.
You know what, though? I've always wanted to learn how to play the drums.
Really?
But I could not get the coordination right. Like, they were telling me I had to do like this beginning thing like this.
I mean,
like,
once you get that, like once you get like the...
But you know what I'm talking about,
yeah,
right?
Like once you get the independence of basically dissecting your brain in half and be like your arms, your right arm and your left arm and your right leg and left leg could be doing...
Hands down, look.
Thank you, I appreciate it. It's a blessing.
It's not easy.
Well, we're living in a period of economic boom. The stock market is doing well. Unemployment is at record lows. Consumers are happily spending money, and in a consumer-driven economy, that's always good news. Jobs are, in fact, so plentiful. There's a shortage of available employees, and companies with jobs to fill are seeking out those who are employed elsewhere. Skilled American workers have become free agents, so to speak, signing with the highest bidder. But all is not entirely rosy.
Cricket West Indies President Ricky Skerritt is adamant that the regional team should be coached by West Indians, and he's unapologetic about making changes to the coaching staff. CWI removed interim head coach Richard Pybus and his support staff of Vaspo Drakes, Toby Radford and Usan Crandon earlier this month Former West Indies batsman Floyd Reefer replaced Pybus, while Roddy Estwick, Corey Collymore and Rayon Griffiths have been given assistant coaching positions. The appointments have drawn much criticism from Barbadian cricket boss Condy Riley. But speaking at a recent reception for the Queen's Park Cricket Club in Trinidad, Skerritt said CWI is not sorry about rolling out its West Indian First policy.
We have no apology for our West Indian First policy, which presents no disrespect to foreign coaches. We have already set a new standard that not less than 4 out of every 5 members of the coaching and support staff for any team should be of West Indian origin.
The cricket administrator says mechanisms will also be put in place to develop coaches in the region.
Just like we have to develop the young cricketers, we have to develop the young coaches. And if you bring cricketers to the point of competence, potential, certification, and then you don't give them an opportunity to show them what they can do, why wouldn't you do the same with the players? So if we're in the business of importing coaches, why aren't we in the business of importing players? Well, the CPL does it.
Meantime, Skerritt says CWI's financial situation is much worse than previously thought. Skerritt, who took over the head post in CWI after defeating Dave Cameron in elections on March 24th, has revealed that due to a lack of resources, the cricketing body has not been able to honor all of its financial obligations. But he said the organization is moving swiftly to address this. The regional cricket boss disclosed that CWI is facing a significant shortfall in working capital and has not been up to date with most of its obligations to creditors. Skerritt says CWI is continuing to raise funds where possible, and he anticipates that in the next couple of months it should be in a much better position. Now, when asked if consideration was being given to having a forensic audit on the handling of finances by the previous administration, the president would only say that a financial review is being undertaken. Still in cricket now, all-rounder Andre Russell says he has a renewed hunger to represent West Indies in the upcoming World Cup, especially with his current batting form. The 31-year-old has played only a single ODI in the last 4 years, but was named in the Caribbean side's 15-man World Cup squad announced last week. Russell had been recalled for the last 2 matches of the recent 5-match home series against England, but was subsequently kept out due to a knee injury. He has been on fire with the bat in the ongoing Indian Premier League, where he has plundered 486 runs at an average of 69 with 4 half-centuries to top the Kolkata Knight Riders' batting charts. Although there has been less emphasis placed on his medium-fast bowling, the right armer has already claimed 10 wickets at an average of 22 and an economy rate of nearly 9. Newly interim West Indies head coach Floyd Reefer said last week that Russell's current form in the IPL had weighed heavily in the decision by selectors. Russell averages 28 from 52 ODIs and has taken 65 wickets. Meanwhile, a former West Indies Test batsman doesn't have high expectations of the regional side for next year's or next month's World Cup. Now, Trinidadian Brian Davis thinks selectors should have strengthened the fielding department as well. TV6's Vinod Nawani reports.
Following the naming of the 15-man West Indies squad for the World Cup, debates over who should have been in and who shouldn't have are expected to continue for a while. Former Test batsman Brian Davis isn't fully satisfied with the side, saying he had 2 players in mind who should have made the cut because of their fielding ability.
Fielding is as important as batting and bowling, and you have to think of people who could field. And that is where people like Karen Pollard and Dwayne Bravo, who are 2 of the best fieldsmen in the world, should have been able to get a selection on that team, just through their fielding. Because you have to carry Gale, and you have to carry Gabriel, so you have some slow fieldsmen. You have to carry Nurse. It's a bad fielding team.
And what does he think about the team's chances at the World Cup?
Very little. I don't think we have much of a chance. When I look at the strength of the other teams, I don't see us as being up there in the top 3 or 4. I don't see us up there. I would say, 40%.
Regarding some of the younger faces, such as Nicholas Puran, Fabian Allen, and Shimron Hetmeyer, Davis says they have what it takes to reach far, but they must be handled carefully.
These players have ability, tons of ability, and it depends on how they're handled by their coaches. It's how well they will perform. They have to be handled well by their coaches, not only the skills, I'm talking about the approach to the game. That's important, very important.
Your dark horse and favorite for the tournament?
My favorite for the tournament is India. I think India play the best cricket. I think Virat Kohli is a very good captain. And I would believe a dark horse would be New Zealand.
Switching sports now, Valtteri Bottas captured the Azerbaijan Grand Prix and Lewis Hamilton placed second as Mercedes set an all-time record of 4 consecutive 1-2s at the start of a season. Sebastian Vettel finished third and teammate Charles Leclerc finished fifth, but for the 4th race in a row, Ferrari was unable to challenge Mercedes. Hamilton, the reigning world champion, closed in on Bottas in the final 2 laps looking for the win, but made an error running wide at the last corner just as the Finn got the DRS overtaking aid by coming up to lap Williams's George Russell, and the leader held on. Bottas returned to the lead of the championship, leading Hamilton by the point he gained for the fastest lap in Australia. Vettel is 35 points behind. The result makes Mercedes the first team ever to start the season in such a dominant fashion and puts their drivers in an enviable position in the championship. And that's for sports. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc.
Jamaican singer-songwriter Neville Livingston, more popularly known as Bunny Wailer, turns 72 today, and while there will be a private celebration with family at his St. Andrew home, also on the roster is the 2nd edition of Rootsman Skankin, the iberation of Bunny Wailer's Earth Strong, on April 13th at Rebel Tea International Headquarters in Kingston, Jamaica. A 3-time Grammy Award winner and a founding member of the acclaimed Wailers group.
I was good. Sometimes I had my days. I like to party, and I did like school. I got sidetracked once I got in high school.
I had spoke with the girls a few months ago about domestic violence, and I really didn't know at that time that many of them in that room were being abused.
Again, the major developments of this day, Antigua and Barbuda's Prime Minister accuses some of his regional neighbors of trying to prevent his country getting a UB campus. And in sport cricket, West Indies President Ricky Skerritt defends his West Indian first coaching policy. That's Caribbean Newsline for News and Sport around the clock. Log on to CaribVision.com. We'll be back here again tomorrow. Have yourselves a wonderful night.